Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our August 11th Village Board meeting. Pardon this brief delay. Technology is sometimes always wonderful, and we're just trying to connect Karen McLaughlin, our treasurer, who's connecting remotely. So there's going to be some activity going on, but we're going to get started while we work on that. Please stand if you're able. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First on the agenda, public comment. Anybody here? John, come on up.
Hi, good evening. Ooh. Hi, everyone. I'm John Rossi. I live at 53 Violet Place, and I just wanted to ask a couple of questions this evening regarding the audit that was done by the State Controller's office and posted publicly on their website the middle of May. I had some questions about the audit. I have questions and concerns about the audit. I'm not here to talk about that this evening. I had questions about some of the process, and you may know, you probably do, that on page 11 of the audit, if you have some questions, there's a point of contact in the regional office and in Newburgh. And I did email, and I got a response from an auditor there. And I was really looking for some guidance on some of the material that supports the process of an audit, which is all on the controller's website, as you know. But this gentleman did point me to a link for General Municipal Law Section 35, and that's what my questions are about. And I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, although it's short, but you're probably already acquainted with it. But it does say that within 10 days of the report, which would be May 15th, the municipal clerk has the responsibility of providing public notice. So that would be like on or about, I guess, what would be May 25th. And that's public notice, and there's details about it, how it should be posted and the process. And also it's available for public inspection. So if there was some person in the community that wants to inspect it, they have the right to inspect it. And then there's additional details about where it gets circulated and distributed and so forth. Then the clerk has an additional responsibility of providing proof. And these are words right out of the Section 35. It's not my words. But you have to provide proof that, hey, we did this public notice. And finally, and I'm going to just read this, the clerk shall present the report of the examination to the governing body of the municipal corporation at the first meeting thereof held after the filing of the report, which I think would have been sometime in late May. So I reached out to Martina because everything is discussing the clerk, and I sent Martina an email asking, did those three things happen? And if they did, I'd like to be able to see the public notice and the proof of the notice, and I'd like to know which meeting it was presented to the board at. But in fairness to Martina, who, by the way, got back to me, and I actually said, no rush. She got back to me very quickly, and I wrongly assumed that probably Martina was fully acquainted with this section of the law, and therefore the things that I was asking about. And I think she probably wasn't. I don't want to speak for her, but the answers left me concerned that maybe these things didn't happen, but also possibly, maybe I'm just misinterpreting the law because I'm not an attorney. So I made a point of calling the controller's office and actually spoke to the auditor who we had exchanged emails, and he's not a lawyer either. And I said, is my interpretation of these items correct? And he said, that's absolutely my understanding. But, I'm not an attorney either. And I said, well, there's a board meeting tonight, so I'm going to show up and I'm going to ask if these things were done. And I thought maybe there'd be a chance that legal counsel would be here as well, which was something that the gentleman I spoke to said, you might have a chance just to run it right past the attorney. So in short, I'd like to know if these things, if the board was aware of these and it has the interpretation that I have and and another non-attorney has, and were they accomplished? Were they done?
Thank you, John, for your questions, and we'll look into it because it's my understanding that we replied to the OSC on all the requirements that they gave us to do. And if there's additional requirements over and above that, we can look into it and get back to you.
So sounds like it probably hasn't been done?
Well, I think there's also a question here of whether or not that report was final. So we received a preliminary report in May that we were allowed to respond to.
Oh, yeah, that's covered. Lydia, you're right. I mean, that's a different section of this section, of this Municipal Law 35.
Okay.
And
So
we had 10 days to reply that we accepted the report, which we did. And we had then 90 days to reply that we put in a CAP plan, which we did that as well. So to my interpretation, we've replied.
Well, I appreciate you looking into it because I think we're all reading from the same document because I'm recognizing the things that you're saying, Gary. But that said, and it appears, at least to me, that these other obligations should have been comported with as well. So I appreciate a response from the board at your earliest convenience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we're going to move on to our first presentation, which is our water demand change management. And I'm going to introduce this just very briefly because I'm not an expert, I'm just kind of a techie guy. And the issue that we were trying to deal with at a large scale is at our water treatment plant and possibly our wastewater plant, but we put more time into the water treatment plant. We pay a hefty demand charge. A demand charge is what's put on us by the utility company. If you exceed a certain level for any 15 minutes during a month, you're charged a demand charge for the period of that month, which is equating to several $1,000s we're paying every month. So we spent some time trying to understand it. I invited demand charge management to help us do the investigation, understand what it is, understand what we can do without it. So I'm going to turn that over to Arthur Seelbeiner and Tom Hutton from Demand Charge Management. And Tom, there's a volume button on the back of that microphone that you may want to turn that down.
Excellent.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Arthur Seelbinder, and I'm one of the partners in Demand Charge Management. And as Gary said, we're here to kind of help you understand a little bit about how utilizing a battery storage system, you can not only cut your existing demand charges, but more importantly, generate additional income from either the Central Hudson or the New York ISO. And we'll get into that as we go through a little presentation. My partner Tom Hutton is here, and he's really the real expert. But as far as some of the real minutia that goes into dealing with Central Hudson and this whole electric the way they charge. We've been around for a while in the renewable industry. Tom's got over 25 years of solar and battery. I started in the renewable area in 2010, 2011, primarily doing solar and battery for the U.S. State Department. We've assembled a team since last December to really focus on how we can bring battery storage into everyday life and really become much more efficient in the way we operate, not only things like the water treatment plant, but manufacturing plants, as well as just universities, for example, how they can better utilize their funds. We do at Demand Charge Management pretty much the soup to nuts from the early design right through the procurement and furthermore do the commissioning. When we first started talking with Gary, I said, Gary, do you guys have demand charges at the village? He says, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, at our water treatment facility, we do pay a good bit of demand charges. I said, well, let us take a look at just how maybe a battery system can become economically viable. And so we had the opportunity to actually get a monitor. Right now, the Central Hudson has you on a flat basis where they keep up with the demand charges. One of the the best ways to handle this is to have a meter which actually measures it so you know when your peaks are. But what we did was we got a meter that we attached to the current meter, and we were able to track over a 30-day period just where the spikes were. And these spikes basically dictate how much you're going to pay for the entire year on your demand charges. And after we installed that, we determined that your load that you have actually would be beneficial to have a battery system.
If you want, I could point out you actually had these very, very short duration peaks, and that just happened during your normal operation. They lasted sometimes less than 15 minutes, but it was amazing. So even though most of your usage is down here for demand, how many kilowatts you're drawing, these little durations are all, your entire bill is driven by these tiny little dots, not what's happening below it. So that was amazing to see, and there's really nothing you can do. That's the way the plant has to be operated, is a backwash process.
Can I jump in here a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this was like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
We knew from the monitoring, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, because again, we knew by monitoring we were seeing these demand spikes. The problem we were trying to understand is what was causing the demand spikes.
Right.
So we spent a great deal of time trying to isolate what was doing that in terms of our process. And if we could change our process to able to eliminate it as well. So through the investigation of timing these and working with our water operators, we were able to determine that when we backwash, so in other words, we have to flush out the system. We take water in, we clean the sediments out, but then when the tanks get contaminated enough, we backwash that sediment and remove it from the process. When we turn on the backwash pump, that's that demand spike, right? And we do this, it's a manual operation, but it has to be done during the day when we're there to be able to handle this demand spike. So the net of this is we can't change our process because we need to do the backwash. We need to do it when we're physically there. We need to do it during the main hours of operation. And so we're always going to have this demand spike. And this demand spike is dictating what we pay for our electric bill for the whole month.
Right. Even if it only happened once.
Right.
They measure based on the highest peak. And there was no way to see this before we measured it with this fluke. You put CT clips on the three phase power, is because you're on rate SC3. They measure demand. They don't measure what we call interval data. So they're not measuring every 15 minutes. They just register your peak for the month. So there was no data before now to see that this was what was happening. Yeah.
Could I clarify, please?
Yeah.
You said 30 days and then the presentation.
No, it was 15 days. Yeah, that was an error. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, we really only needed
1 day.
once you see the trend, yeah.
I think one of the things we found was that Rhinebeck is going to be expanding the size of their plant, and that demand is going to, the base load is going to go up, but also the spikes will also go up. And what we're trying to really attack here is how can we utilize the battery to eliminate or to lower those spikes. And what we found was, and you'll see as we go through this, that there are a number of different ways, besides just the demand charges, of which can help not only pay for the battery, but to continue to lower your overall utility cost.
Right, and we'll get into this in the next few slides, but the demand charge savings is one of several ways that you can not only reduce your electric bill, but also get revenue, actual checks in over and above what your savings are on the bill, which we'll see in just a moment.
Can I just ask, so the dotted line is at 130 kilowatt?
Yeah, that's erroneous, yeah.
Okay, well, I was just trying to figure out, at what point do we trigger the demand price? Is that at,
So right now, your meter just says, what was the highest 15 minutes of usage for the building for the month?
okay,
And that's 160 kilowatts, and that goes on your bill. 160 kilowatts times $18 a kilowatt, the demand charge. So that's what's happening. And what the battery does is, ignore this line, I tried to erase it, but I couldn't get it erased. But what the battery will do is automatically cut it off here, the demand charge itself.
okay.
And possibly lower.
Okay, so I mean, I know that like in a normal house that doesn't have demand charges on it, right?
Right,
Like
right.
they're running at, I don't know, like 40 kilowatt hours, whatever. Like
Right.
at what point does Central Hudson say you've now tumbled over into this new fee structure? Like, is it?
So that's a good question.
Yeah.
And let me just parse it a little bit, because SC3, which is your current rate,
Okay,
does not have an interval meter, but it does have a demand meter. So it is measuring that demand. So just residential doesn't have a demand meter. You don't know what the spike is ever, right?
and we're never charged for it.
And you're not charged for it. You're only
Okay.
charged, so the two charges generally are per kilowatt hour.
Right,
So 18 cents per kilowatt hour, and the other one is per kW.
right,
So this is, or per kW month, we call it, right? So these spikes, everything we're talking about tonight is around, well, except for one thing, which we could get into, which is energy arbitrage, where if you charge at night when it's cheap and discharge during the day, you can make more money.
yeah,
But other than that, it's all kW, so what you're doing for kW. The one thing that we would do is switch you to SC3 time of use. And so what that does, it gets them to put a demand meter, an interval meter on the account. So now you can actually see all the time what's happening.
okay,
And it allows you to participate in these grid market charge reductions directly. Your current rate, they give you an average. For demand charges are demand charges, but you'll see in a minute, they also have these, we call them grid market charges. There's different names for it, but the ISO, the New York ISO, they have charges also that go on your electric bill. But you can't avoid those charges on your current rate. You have to be in a time of use rate with an interval meter. Ironically, by expanding the plant, I don't know exactly, but there's a threshold of 300 kilowatts where it's mandatory to go on to the SC3 TOU or a different rate. And so I think you're probably going to get forced onto that rate anyway. And with a battery, that's a good thing, because you can then reduce those charges. Right now you can't. You can reduce demand charges, but you can't reduce the grid market charges on your current rate. So does that make sense?
so this is the idea that like at 2 in the morning, power is cheaper than it is at 2 in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right, and along with that is an interval meter that knows when you're using the power. Without that, you don't know if it's 3 a.m. or 2 p.m.
And is there some reason for our process that we can't plan those spikes at the dip?
Yeah, so Jennifer, that's what I tried to answer. We looked at when we do backwash, and working with Brian Alex, we cannot change that time because it has to occur while we're running the plant, which is the peak time, and that's when the pumps are turning on and running. And it has to occur while we're there because it's a manual operation to do.
Okay.
Right, so we went back and forth a lot with Brian.
Yeah.
Let's put this in the valley, and we can't move it.
got it, okay.
Yeah. And with a battery, you don't have to. It's pretty nice.
And did we talk to Central Hudson I mean, has there been, I kind of understand that it's not negotiable, but I mean,
Yeah, we talked,
they
Yeah.
see something like this and what do they say? Tough luck?
So when we first started, I reached out to Central Hudson and
Yeah.
said, listen,
Yeah.
we're paying all these demand charges, what can we do? And as Tom mentioned, number one, they don't give us an interval meter to let us know when we're getting the demand. All they say is you hit that 160, so we're gonna charge you, and we can't change anything to be able to do that, and we can't lower our rate with that. So, yes, we had,
sorry.
I think
Dance
that,
time again.
You're welcome.
we had a good positive exchange with Central Hudson
Yeah.
on how we can maybe do something differently.
Uh-huh.
And what we love Central Hudson, but what we love is they don't tell you the little secrets that you can do to change the rate at which you charge in addition to the technology.
I think one other thing that going to the interval meter gives you is a little bit better understanding of just how you are operating your plant, and gives you the opportunity to ask those questions about how can we improve what we're doing. And with that change in service, it gives you those kind of management tools that I think you don't have at this point in time.
I'll kind of give an example, Jennifer, like one of the things a lot of water plants do and wastewater, Central Hudson will say, listen, we're gonna get a peak tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon because air conditioners are coming on or peak demand, and they'll call all these plants and they'll ask them to shut their power down so we can lower grid. Today, we don't have the ability to do that. We're not playing in that game,
Okay.
right? To be able to get kind of a refund back from them for shutting down our plant to do that. And you can't use a generator to do that.
Okay.
You have to have either shut the plant down or have some alternative. So in addition to what we're trying to do, we're gonna be able to manage the plant better. When they call and they say, grid's heat, lower your demand, we now have a mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
which
And
we
it can
never
be
had.
automatically done, so that it doesn't require a physical switch. I mean, the battery automatically does that for you.
So based on that data, is there any way to calculate what the extra thousands that we're
Yeah.
paying?
Good question. We have a slide on that. And the next slide is sort of a high level, so maybe we come back to this, but you know, this is just so we level set what we're talking about for gross numbers. So this battery size, 250 kilowatts, we're talking about kW, kilowatts. It can run at 200, it can run at 200 kilowatts for 4.3 hours. You can run it at lower kilowatts for more hours. So if you know, you can run 250 kilowatts for you know, just under 4 hours. But it's 858 kilowatt hours that are in the tank, right? The capital cost $610,000. There's a NYSERDA grant of roughly $150,000. It's $175 per kilowatt hour. So $175 times that number, and that's the grant. It's block 5. There's still, I think, $91 million left in that block. If you miss that block, then it goes down to $150 a kilowatt hour. But that comes. There's a federal grant. It used to just be for for-profit entities, an investment tax credit, but they changed that so now you can get it as essentially a federal grant. So that buys down the cost of the system. And so the net amount of money the town would be responsible for after this comes in. You're responsible for the whole thing, but then these, you know, the money's come in is $216,000. And then just for argument's sake, we said, well, you know, how would you want to do this? Well, why don't we do a construction loan for the capital cost, pay interest on that, and we try to be conservative, more interest hopefully than we think you have to pay, and then have a permanent loan for the net. So the next slide, Eleanor, you know, that'll get into the details. That's what it's based on, you know, in terms of the capital costs.
Do we think that with the new work that's being done on the plant, do we think that a 200 kilowatt output is appropriate?
I do, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So,
Yeah.
Lydia, good question, because the new work of the plant, we're adding an additional building, which is a pre-treatment for turbidity,
Right.
right? That pre-treatment plant will drive up our base demand.
Right.
But even when you drive up your base demand, you're still gonna have the spikes, as you mentioned, on top of that.
Right.
But driving up that base demand, we can accumulate more savings as a result because of our demand going up when we shut it down. So it seems
Okay,
backwards, but we're gonna make out better with the new plant coming online than we were currently with the existing plant.
okay,
And the new plant's equivalent of adding another plant.
yeah, okay.
If getting into the weeds of it, it's more about the 858 kilowatt hours.
Right,
And, you know, the grid market charge that we're going to show you in a minute, back to Eleanor's question, which we're going to get to, is actually 1 hour. So there is, New York ISO has a 1 hour time frame once a year, and whatever you're using for KW during that 1 hour, you get charged the rest of the year. And so you don't need 850 kilowatt, you know, you need 1 hour instead of, 4.3 hours at 200 kilowatts, right? You really only need 1 hour. So bottom line is, yes, this is the right system for post-expansion.
okay.
That makes sense, yeah. It gets in the weeds.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, the fact that what you said, like, that 1 hour for over the course of 365 days is bananas to me, but that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's...
That's fine, like, we're not having that conversation.
Okay.
Extra slide. Let's go back and explain that.
Oh, yeah, do we want to do that? Yeah, why don't we go down and do a quick tutelage? Because this is going to maybe answer a bunch of questions. So this here this is not your data, by the way. This is just an illustration. So these are 24 hours in a day. How many kilowatts? 100, 200, 300, 400. So this is not you, but it gives you an idea. The green line is how the plant, how the commercial is using electricity, right? So it's pretty flat, and there's a little bump in the afternoon. And right. So for demand chart, of course, yours doesn't look like that. Yours has these spikes, right? So the battery turns on. We set a preset amount. So for you, it might be 150 kilowatts, or post-expansion might be 170. And anytime the plant is going to exceed that number, the battery turns on automatically, like Arthur was saying. And so you cut that down. So instead of your demand charge being based on this number, it's based on a lower number. So that's value stream number 1. And then this is, we keep talking about grid market charges. So, and there's different names for it, ICAP, UCAP, it's capacity. PJM, which is a big power pool just south of us, had a 10x increase in capacity costs, 10 times 2 years ago, and then last year it went up another 30%. So capacity costs are very, very expensive, and really where most of the rate increases are happening. So what happens is, they'll have, in a New York ISO, it's an hour, but the battery will get the signal, okay, it's coming. We'll turn on the battery early, because you want to make sure it's running and, any issues. And we'll run it through the hour, and we'll run it for another, 30 minutes or hour. So, we like to have 3 hours of running the battery, and we run it full. Like, we want to bring your plant, so from the utilities perspective, it looks like you're not using any electricity at all. So all of the operations for the water plant are coming from the battery, okay? And so when we do that, you're lowering that charge for literally the rest of the year. And in the numbers we're going to get to, when, back to Eleanor's question, you'll see those savings. The next one is very similar, almost exactly the same. The grid market charges are from the ISO, so the independent system operator that runs the entire state, all the electricity in the state. Demand response is from, in this case in New York, it's both the ISO but also Central Hudson. And so Central Hudson might be getting to their peak, and like I said, it might be 5 p.m. on a hot, July day, and everyone has their air conditioning on, and they're saying, oh geez, the wires are going to melt, turn on, and you turn on, same idea, turn on the battery, run it through their event, and then turn it off. And again, in this case, they actually write you a check. So you get revenue in the form of a check from the utility and from the ISO for doing this. We have this showing like at the same time. It's not always the same time. So sometimes the New York ISO, grid market charge time is the same as the ISO demand response time is also the same as the Central Hudson demand response time. If that's the case, you get all 3 checks running the battery at the same time. They can be slightly different though too. So it
And that
just-
can be programmed based upon the information you get from the various ISO or from Central Hudson.
Yeah. So, and I think was that the last one for
That's
that?
the last one of that.
Yeah, so that basically explains what we're trying to say about, turn on the battery and then avoid these capacity charges, KW capacity charges. At home, we're always thinking about kilowatt hours, because there's no demand, there's no capacity. There is, but they're buried in your kilowatt hour charge. But for the water treatment
Delivery,
plant.
to delivery of, under the delivery charge.
Yeah, yeah.
You've probably noticed your delivery charges have gone up significantly over the last year. I know ours have almost doubled, so.
Yeah. So if you hit one more down. So this is small, so I can zoom in. You want me to zoom in? Let me zoom into the area here. The stuff on the top, this is just, this kind of repeats, this is some technical stuff, but it repeats what I just said about the capital costs and all that. Down here, we have stuff on the loan and, and all that. But these are your revenues here, and these are the costs. There are some costs to it. So let me just kind of go down through those, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it. And this is just kind of repeating what we just talked about. So monthly demand reduction, those are those little spikes, right? Get rid of those. Grid market charge reduction, that's that, the 1 hour, and then all next year. You'll see that doesn't start until year 2, because in the first year, it's last year's peak that you're going to get charged for. So you have to burn that off, and then in year 1 we run the battery, and then next year you see it off your bill.
But the first one, so the monthly demand reduction is offset, and then the grid market is already revenue.
No, actually, the grid market, when you change rates, these are both savings. Those are both
Okay,
on-bill
so it's also
savings. The
offset.
first 2 are on-bill savings,
Okay.
yeah. The next 2, and potentially 3, are revenue. The next 2 are definitely revenue. The last one, I have it at 0. I just wanted to illustrate, but we'll get into that. That's what I was going to get to earlier. Yeah, and then New York ISO, DR demand response, that's from the ISO, and then the Central Hudson demand response, targeted demand response, TDR, is what I was explaining before. So, yeah.
I think that what you see here is that this gives us a little cash flow. How do we get this to where you can see the overall? If you notice here, we show the total CapEx, less the federal grant and the NYSERDA payments. And you get down to needing a certain amount to finance over that period of time. And the savings and income items that you have not only will pay off that particular loan, but create additional cash flow, so that by the end of the term, you've really generated enough money to pay for this, and it's about a 10-year period of time.
Yeah, and so just to kind of point out, so that's the capital cost, that's the federal grant we talked about, that's the NYSERDA grant we talked about. We calculated amount of interest. The next slide, I think I put in there, we give you a baseline of how we got to that number, and then the net. So we have $20,000 in the negative, but we could increase the loan amount and make that 0. So there's no out-of-pocket money at all, to put the system in. And then it's positive cash flow right away. We have the loan expiring in 10 years, and then from there, the savings are higher. But that's up to you. We don't provide the loan. We're just.
What's the useful life of the battery?
Yeah, I was just gonna
So
ask.
great question. The design life is 6,000 cycles, and that's going up, but 6,000 to 8,000. But we like to quote 6,000. So if you run it once per day, fully, so you go from full charge down to say 10%. Up at the top, it talks about we charge to 95% and discharge to 10%, so you have 85% usable. So if you drain it fully every single weekday, that's 23 years. So they're designed to last a long time. The warranties by mandate from the state are 10 years.
Right, we can only bond for the amount that's the useful life, so.
Yeah. Yes. There's been a lot of good news coming out about even car batteries because that they're lasting longer and state of charge is better than they thought they would be. So it's been a good run.
Tom, can you also bring into the safety aspect here,
Yeah.
placement and everything else, because I think that's a concern for a lot of people.
Yeah. 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 So
Where they are.
these batteries they're called LFP. So they're lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're not what are called NMC, which is what you find in cars, and people are more concerned about car, flammability and flames and fire. There has never been a fire from these types of batteries. They're just far safer, from that perspective. Anytime you put a battery like this to power anything, the first place we go to and anyone would go to is the fire department, and so they look at it, and they already have, and I don't know if we have I think we have a list of,
That's what I'm trying to find.
850, it's certified UL, the fire rating certifications, it's certified, all the way through everything. So there's usually a 10-foot setback from a building requirement, so, put it 10 feet from the building. Of course, cars are in the garage, so that's a little funny, but there's also a fire suppression system inside. So the battery is it'll be, this size battery will be a container like this. And it has a cooling system inside of it to keep it cool in the summer and keep it warm in the winter. But it also has a fire suppression system inside, so if there is any issues, it puts itself out. The issue in the past with thermal events is that so the battery is actually a lot of little batteries, right, that are all connected to one another. And if one of them starts to go bad, and it might start to heat up, that can be a problem. That's what causes the issue. The modern batteries, every single battery is being monitored, and there's a battery management system that can isolate that battery. It's like a bypass, so they'll bypass that battery so it's no longer involved in what's going on. So there's been a tremendous number of safety advancements in the way these batteries are used. Mostly driven by the experience with cars, so. One note, and I'm a nerd about this stuff, I love it, but so I could go on for hours and hours, but the new Rivian is using an LFP battery now, not NMC. So the reason why cars are all NMC is that you get more power density. There's more energy in a smaller package, which is what cars need, right? But stationary power, if you're an extra 6 inches wide, who cares, right? So, but now the technology has moved far enough, the concerns about fire, that some cars are beginning to put in LFP batteries as well.
So Tom, one more question. So one of the things that we talked about was we deplete the battery.
Yeah.
But now we have to recharge the battery.
Great. Yep. Wonderful question. So we do, the software, right, does a discharge schedule, because when the battery's charging, that's demand. That's KW being drawn. So like if we charge the battery during one of your peaks, then we're going to make the peak bigger. So we charge at night. And in your case, we went back up and looked at the pattern. We'll charge when you guys aren't there, right? So yeah, that's the idea. So, we'll set a baseline. We never want to exceed, say, 130 kilowatts. And then whenever the battery is, whenever it's below that, we can charge. So if it's down to 125, we can take those 5 kilowatts and charge with it. And so state of charge and is there enough is there enough time to charge that you can discharge? So that balance is really what a lot of our math is about. And never increasing demand, right? Only charging, at night. Ellen, are you?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to my question. So,
Yeah.
so in 1 year, how much extra are we paying that you think we should? Is it 2,000, 50,000, 80,000, 1,000?
Yep. And so right here, so the between savings and revenue, it's a little over 80,000, 84,000, starting in year 2. Remember, in year 1, that grid market charge doesn't happen. So the revenue is about a little over $80,000 a year between savings off your bill and also revenue coming in. And then there is a cost of roughly $23,000 a year. Let me point out some of these costs. So operations and maintenance, so that's literally just, you know, every 6 months somebody comes out and checks the battery, make sure it's working okay, you know, is essentially what that is. Anything has to be replaced, they keep it running. There's a service, you know, service level agreement. Battery dispatch services, that's the, you know, it's automatic, but to get some of these charges, and also, you know, time of use differential, there are things called ancillary services in general, but there are more revenue streams potentially that you can potentially get. One of them is frequency response, so the grid needs to be at 60 hertz. If the battery is registered with the ISO as a frequency response asset, then the grid sends the signal saying, look, hertz are dipping, please put energy into the grid for 20 seconds, 15 seconds, a minute. Or hertz are getting above 60 hertz because there's too much supply and not enough demand, pull power down. And so, you know, a recent project we did, a bigger system, but about a megawatt system, so 4 times bigger, was able to make, they actually were able to make an extra $100,000 a year just doing frequency response services for the utility. But that was in Connecticut, so it depends on, and these change. So there's opportunity for more revenue beyond this. We like to be conservative so that, you know, you get what, you know, what you're going. So that's why I have a line here for battery dispatch services. We don't dispatch the battery, we have a partner who is a, they call it a lead market participant. You know, so they're actually registered with the ISO as a service provider to put power in, take power out, put power in, and they get the signals directly. And so that's what you have to pay them, right? And then these next two are interesting. So auxiliary load has a negative number. That's, like I said, the battery has a heater and a cooler in it. So that's the energy cost of it just sitting there doing nothing. And so it will use energy to stay, you know, warm or cold. And then conversion losses, there's about a 90% round trip efficiency. So every time you charge and discharge, you're losing a little power. And so that's the cost of, you know, of that power that you lost.
But I think I think if we did not do this,
Yeah.
what is the extra money up there that we pay? Is it the first item or both the first and the second?
If you do nothing,
If we do nothing,
then yeah, you don't
We
get
have
any
an
access to that revenue at all.
right, forget the revenue side, I just mean the cost
And
side.
you'll keep paying, you'll
That-
just keep paying.
The first item, or it includes the
Well,
second?
So the first item you keep paying for.
Okay, and
The
the
second
second,
item you're paying for in kilowatt hour charges, because Central Hudson, they incur those costs.
uh-huh,
And on rate SC3, they pass those along in your kilowatt hour number, not in a KW number, because they don't know when you're using the electricity. Do you follow me? So like when you go to SC3 time of use, your kilowatt hour number will be lower, you know, because you can actually look at the demand itself and be charged for demand. Does that make sense? But like residential, for example, residential electric bills are paying for the cost of capacity. But they're just not paying it directly. They're getting it in the form of a kilowatt hour charge. The utility does the math and they say, we're gonna allocate X millions of dollars to residential for our wires and poles, right? Does that make sense? No, come right back to you.
I think what she's asking is, we're paying a monthly electric bill today.
correct.
Yeah,
And in that monthly electric bill that we pay today, it varies every month on how much we pay down to water plant. I don't have those numbers with me. But
Something like
in
$100,000.
general, we're $3,000 to $5,000 above our consumption for the demand charge,
Because of the demand charge.
because of the demand charge.
So that's the additional cost that we're paying,
We're
not
paying-
having a battery system.
So $3,000 to $5,000
Well,
a month?
A month. And then the batteries lower the demand, which lowers your kilowatt charge also. So
Right.
that first line says we're lowering the demand charge, we're getting savings for that. So today, you're gonna pay the full demand, and you're gonna pay the full kilowatt usage charge, and you're gonna pay the full demand charge every month going forward. Right.
Think about it this way, you're being charged these amounts that we're showing in the reduction. You're being charged that, you just don't know that you're being
So
charged.
like
Not
that,
the question.
The question is the
I'm
second.
struggling to find out what the number is between, if we just sit here and do nothing and we pay this extra every month, I want to know what it costs us per year, so I can look at the system and say, well, you had 80,000 and 23,000, that's $57,000 difference, not clear what that is.
Yeah.
You multiply that by 10 years, that's $570,000, and we're paying $610,000 for this system, although we don't pay for it all, so I'm just trying in my head to
Yeah,
put
I
some of
think
these
net,
numbers together.
the way we've calculated it is net, whatever your bill is now, gonna go down by $60,000, you know, and then 62, 64, yeah, we're going up a little bit because costs.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just can't see what you are.
But
Oh, it's so
that's
small.
making an assumption about the revenue. I guess my
Yeah.
concern is, I mean, we're forecasting out 20 years. Like, what could change in circumstances that might affect those revenue numbers,
Yeah.
for example? Like, does Central Hudson at one point say, oh my gosh, we're paying out all this money, we're gonna come up with a different solution, and that goes away?
Yeah, yeah, you need a crystal ball,
Right,
and
okay,
I have no idea.
okay.
All I know is that PJM, the entire power pool, had 10x, 10 times more. Instead of $3, it went to $30. I think, that's approximate. 10 times, and then the next year it went up another 30%. So everything we're seeing is, this is very conservative.
So is the grid market change reduction, is that an assumption that we're gonna be
The
paying more?
The assumption here is that the rate goes up 2.5% a year.
Got it.
That's the assumption behind all this is that, and I have it listed somewhere, yeah. Or maybe I don't. Anyway, it's going up 2.5% a year, right? So yeah, so you can model it. What if it goes, stays flat, or what if it goes up 10%? You know?
So if you look at the bottom line here, one second, if you look at the bottom line of this chart, starting year 2, we're 12,000 cash flow positive already, starting in year 2.
Right.
And
that's
it
with
depends
with
on, and that
out of
depends
pocket.
on, they're assuming a 10-year loan, right? Depending how we want to do the loan, but that's just assuming a 10-year loan. So we become cash flow positive starting in year 2 if we implement this,
Right.
over and above what we're paying today.
Based on these assumptions?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think,
That's
Jennifer,
the question.
one thing about the reason why the utilities do this stuff, it's not out of the goodness of their heart, but it's cheaper for them to do this than have to do something else on their end. So I think
This is their solution.
this is their solution,
Right.
right? That they'd rather, it's like when they swap out your refrigerator, like they'd rather get rid of your old refrigerator than have to build a new power plant. It's cheaper to do. So I think this is how they are trying to save themselves money.
And they'll pay us because we're saving them money.
That's a great
And that's
point.
where the revenue comes back in, because we're gonna get paid for saving money.
Utilities love this stuff. They love batteries. The New Jersey governor, her first act was to declare a state of emergency on energy costs and implement aggressive battery storage programs, 2 of them. Her first act was, costs are too high for electricity, and we're implementing battery storage as the solution. In Massachusetts, they've identified something like 300 critical circuits that don't have enough power, and the only way to really help that, you can't build a power plant on that circuit. The circuit only serves, 4 streets. The only way is to put a battery there. And so they're targeting areas for batteries. And it's exactly what Richard said, it's to bring their costs down. It costs them a lot less to do it this way than to build more lines down the road.
Kind of like adding
Build another plant.
Right.
Or build another plant.
So as part of this prediction, I mean, as we're all switching to electric cars and as data centers are sucking all the power out of the grid and like blah, 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 blah. I mean, like this whole sort of set of assumptions is that we as humans are just gonna be consuming a boatload more electricity over the course of the next 15 to 30 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right,
Because the goal is to
Maybe
electrify
splits.
everything.
right,
And that's why capacity costs are going through the roof.
right.
That 10x increase was an auction based on what people think. It wasn't based on a physical reality on the ground. In other words, it was based on people were bidding into an auction. What do I think capacity costs are going to be? And that's exactly what they're looking at. Data centers, electric cars, mini split, electric heat. Everyone's moving to electricity, and we don't have enough wires and poles to cover it all. So the costs are going to go way up.
Just look at your Central Hudson bill
Oh, really?
and divide the amount of, figure out what the cost per kilowatt is on the supply, on the delivery charges. And that's what we're really attacking here, is the delivery charges. In addition to hopefully lowering your base supply charges. But the real thing is your savings in your delivery charge. I mean, I know that on my bill here in Central Hudson, that delivery charge now is twice what the supply cost is.
So the real key here, though, I want to get back to the beginning, was finding what was causing this.
Yeah.
And the analysis that we did with the fluke meter monitoring we actually did it for more than 15 days. We monitored it for a lot longer. We had a lot of
15
issues
days
to
of
try to
data.
get that to work properly. But once we got that tuned, and the system tuned and timed with it, we were then able to go back to the water plant and say, what are you doing at 2 o'clock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's how we
Yeah.
did the detective work, and then that's what drove this. So, first was identifying problem,
right,
right, of what we were having, and that's what we did.
Well done there.
yeah. But that's only the 10,000 first one. So the program is interesting because of cash flow.
Right, it opened
Right.
up the whole idea.
The
Because at first, we
cash
talked to Central Hudson, and they're like, well, we
Revenue.
don't have, you're on SC3, we don't have a meter for you, and then we find out you can voluntarily switch. Okay, that's good, and then with your expansion, you might get forced onto it anyway, right?
So how long have you been doing this? Who are you doing it for? Like, what are their experiences?
He lives here, so we're,
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said, you live here, so, there's an interest in.
Like,
lower-
are there
lower water costs.
are there other local
He pays water bills.
municipalities doing this? Is it coming
yeah.
together in, like, is this actualizing in real life for other? for
Well, you
others?
can see by what NYSERDA is doing as far as in their incentives. The monies that they are putting out there, they're getting a great response, just like they did with the solar, when solar was in much more favor. Batteries are still in favor within the big, beautiful bill that we had. But in addition to the federal incentives, NYSERDA has committed a tremendous amount of money to promoting this, not only in not-for-profits and municipalities, but in commercial operations as well.
But there aren't any
Yeah,
local.
I think the
others.
question is, has this been done before? It's not new.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right, and
Close by or some, somewhere around here?
I don't know where the nearest one is to here.
I don't
You
know.
know, our installation team has built over 150 projects, just us, and they're going in all over the place.
And these numbers hold up for them?
These numbers.
Yeah. Oh,
These
yeah,
are
yeah.
realized?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Here in New York, we actually, we just finished one in Connecticut, which has, on a manufacturing plant, which they have a very nice incentive program, both for the federal side as well as the state, but nothing in Connecticut can compare with what New York and NYSERDA program is doing. So it's really to the advantages of businesses here to utilize
Right.
these incentives that are made available to you.
so I'm gonna,
That's right,
we have a lot to cover this evening unless everybody has some more pertinent questions, but
Just one more quick one, please. Just what is the footprint of the batteries?
This size battery is about yay big. I don't have the
I mean,
specification
like the
sheet.
building, it would be in a building or?
no, it's in a cabinet.
Outside,
Out-
outside, yeah.
Actually, do we have that picture? We
I
try
have
to
it on my
generate-
phone,
We tried to
I had to
generate,
dig it up, but there's
Now,
a red, there's a little red
it's a metal
building.
storage closet that sits outside that's roughly 4 foot by 2 feet by
Yeah.
6 feet.
That's
Yeah.
a lot smaller.
It's a cabinet.
That is a
And
lot
it sits
smaller
there.
than thinking, yeah.
It doesn't make, the only.
It's not a building.
There are pumps inside that you really can't hear. There's an inverter that has a fan, so I mean, it's very, very quiet, and it just sits there.
From an installation point, you have to pour a concrete pad,
I know.
Yeah.
right? It has to sit on a concrete pad, this cabinet, 10 feet away from the building, and then it gets electrically connected to the supply side.
actually, we had a chance to look at the site and actually find the perfect place for it. And it's right adjacent to one of the buildings. It has the conduits into the building that makes it very easy to access all of the electric gear inside the building.
Great.
Awesome.
So it's really,
So the real question, I think, are you convinced that there's value here to do something to look at this? That's really the question.
So look at
In
it.
terms of savings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, we need to decide as a board, do we want to proceed doing this? This could be considered, again, professional services, and we could, here's a turnkey company. Or we could offer bid. We have a choice of what we could really do to make this all work, right? If there are other companies, I'm assuming, that are doing this, that if we went out for an RFP, that could could bid on this project, and we'd have to write up the RFP and put all the technical, make sure the requirement was met, to be able to do that. Or we can say, let's see if we can go forward.
One thing that, I shouldn't get in, but one thing
Right.
just to point out, is to get the NYSERDA grant, there are a long list of requirements. You don't get the grant unless you're qualified, you're registered, just so you know.
And you're an organization that will take us through all of that, correct?
Yeah.
So the work content is on who we hire, and has to be able to deliver to make us, to get the NYSERDA grant, get the federal grant, make sure all the requirements are met, that we meet the conditions.
Great. I would be grateful having that as a discussion point in our next meeting, so we have a little time to digest. Like, you've been thinking about this for months,
I know.
which is
Yeah.
great, but like, I just learned about it today.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we'll put it up for discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Great.
cool, awesome. Thank you so much. This is
You're welcome.
Thank you,
fascinating.
thank you for the
Fascinating.
opportunity, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Interesting, thank you.
And if you have any questions, you've got our contact information there, we'd be more than glad to address any of those questions.
Just an FYI,
Thank you.
I took these guys down to the Hudson 7 because they manage 5 water treatment plants, and there was a valid positive response from the Hudson 7 team from water plants to say, wow, let's kind of all look at this.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Kathy, great seeing you.
Do you need the computer?
All right,
I
so
mean,
next,
sorry, do you need
yeah,
this?
next on the update is our water wastewater upgrades that we've been spending a great deal of time. In summary, we're getting very, very close, but we're not there yet, but close to being able to completing these projects. But we also want to entertain with some contingency money, and those who have been with us for a while understand the process we went through on cleaning the lagoon out, if you remember that. And there's an opportunity for us to look at that again.
So close to finishing, but not finishing, just builds up suspense, and
Yeah. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Set the stage for you, Anthony.
so, yeah, good evening, everybody. It's been a minute. As the mayor just mentioned, we're nearing the end of the project over at the water treatment plant right now. I would say from a mechanical standpoint, the project is 100% complete. Every pipe is in place, every piece of equipment is in place, every valve is in place. At this point, everything is powered, so we have electrical to everything. HVAC is installed. The big finale is going to be the control aspect. So we have what we call SCADA, right? It's the brains of the plant that works on the computer. It has software programming, so all of these electrically actuated automated valves that you purchased and had before refurbished will function on autopilot so that it's a well-oiled machine, right?
So Anthony, I just want to, again, interject here only because I'm too close to this sometimes. Where we're at is we still need to make sure the UV system is working properly, right? We're having a little bit of issue with getting that functionality with the UV, which is new to our plant down there. And we are also trying to tune the new building, so from a chemical aspect, it's giving us the water that we need. Am I putting that correctly?
You're correct, but I'm not there yet. So yes, correct. But the UV portion, for example, also still falls under the control aspect of things. And the Trident is also, remember where we had the conventional filtration train, and we have the Trident filtration train, right? So we put the pre-treatment units in the new building so that the old Trident units would have water with a water quality with a low enough turbidity that it could handle, right? But we cannot complete the control upgrades on the conventional side, the side you're using right now, until the Trident is ready to go online. Because we always need one of the two systems online, and you can't do the wiring of the process, the automation controls on the conventional until the Trident is functioning. The challenge that the Trident system is dealing with right now is they're still fine-tuning the polymers for the flocculation of the solids so they can precipitate out of the clarifying units. So in short, the murky water that's cloudy, it uses an injection of various polymers and chemicals that help those small cloudy solids clump into larger solids that will settle within the tanks, right? So that's always going to be a constant changing recipe. That's why there is a lab within the plant, and they're supposed to be doing jar testing to see what kind of water quality is coming in from the Hudson at any given day, and they'll adjust their doses accordingly. But being a new unit, right now, they're still trying to find the correct ratios for that recipe. They're working with a vendor from West Tech who purchased and provided the units themselves, and hopefully we'll have that straightened out before the end of August. The goal is to transition in the last week of August to transition to the Tridents, have both systems running in parallel, and if it carries us through that week, first week of September, we'll only be relying on the Tridents so we can complete the SCADA work on the conventional. In the meantime, as the mayor prefaced in the beginning, the lagoon that receives the backwash effluent, right, after we've rinsed our dirty water out of our filters, has to go somewhere, and it goes into that lagoon in the front, and all of that dirty water settles into clear water up top and solids on the bottom, and those solids build up until now you don't have a lagoon anymore because you filled the pocket of land that was there. And in the past you had dredged that before, right? You'll put a barge on there, it vacuums out the sediment from the bottom to put it through some geotube bags that are laid out, and that leads the water out, but it holds the solids. And then once that is dried out, you want it to dry out because it's hauled off by the ton, by weight, not by volume, then you can rip it out and take it to landfill. So because this project, it went well to the point where we have well over $100,000 left in contingency allowances, available money. We requested the quote from the contractor for the dewatering services or the dredging services, and they've offered, I guess they've offered an itemized schedule as requested, in which there's a mobilization cost, and then the equipment cost, and then site restoration costs, because those geotubes are going to take up a lot of land that they disturb. They need to be restored after. The tubes themselves have a cost. The equipment has a cost, and bringing it there has a cost. After that, in between there, which accounts for about 72% of the actual available proposal, is your water removed, right? So to put it a little more simply, you could say 28% of the cost is just to mobilize and demobilize equipment and sweep on your way out, and then your 72% is how much sediment you're actually going to pull out of there. When I broke down their unit costs, it looks like we have approximately $84 per cubic yard, right? 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. And that's based off of not volume retrieved from the lagoon, but volume accumulated in the geotube bags after it's been dewatered. So we're not counting the water volume in that, of course, right? So if I assume that you use right now, you have $100,585 in your general contractor's allowance. Then you have another $50 in the electrician and another $25 in the HVAC contractor. On top of those, if we want to go even further, you have another $59,000 as an overall allowance within the EFC financing, right? So all things together, you have upwards of $200,000. My recommendation is we only award the contractor a unit price as opposed to a lump sum, so we don't get ahead of the budget, and we make sure we don't exceed anything. And we can negotiate the mobilization costs with them, because I think I have room to negotiate those down a little bit, that 28% that I said. And then from there, we'll proceed on an agreed unit price until the board's pleasure, really. See what progress we can get out of the lagoon for dredging.
How much of the lagoon do you think we can remove with that cost?
I would, well, I'm not sure what the institute volume is,
Right.
but I would say
In cubic yards?
in cubic yards, before we started this project and you had those bags over there, you had 3 large geotube bags. I don't think that this cost is going to fill 2 bags. I think you're roughly at 1 bag possibly if you used every penny, you could go into a second, but then you're left with, I don't think it justifies the cost of the second bag if you're only gonna put 20% of.
Wait,
It's
sorry,
filled.
are you saying that it's gonna cost us $235,000?
No.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Please.
You added up all the contingency numbers and now,
So if I were to add up the numbers,
and didn't we also just dredge that lagoon? Have I been
Actually,
on
it
this
was-
board way too long?
No,
Or-
it's 20, what you're removing, what you're thinking about is how we just recently removed everything after it dried, because it sat there for 3.5 years.
Right, but
So
we
we
dredged
did it,
like
we did it in
5
20
years ago,
about 5 to 7
2018.
weeks, yeah.
Around 2018 was when we dredged it.
Okay, and then all that was just sitting on that pad.
So-
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
So the spikes that,
trees growing on it.
yep, so the spikes that were shown in the previous presentation
Yeah,
are backwash events, which
Yeah, they're-
occur
right,
essentially every day,
right,
right? If not every day, at least 4 times a week.
right.
So over the course of 5 years, 4 times a week, 4 times 52,
Right, it
200 a
refills.
year.
Yeah, it refills, I get that.
So where would we put a bag? Given that we have, our current landscape profile has changed down there.
So you actually now have where the bags were, they will be, which is the contractor's laydown area that they created, which now is nice and flat and leveled and with crushed stone and not overgrown. So you actually have a very nice place to put down a
So
bag.
they're going the same place?
Yes.
Basically.
So basically what you're saying is, we have some money available, we're not, the lagoon's not full, but this is a chance to knock it way back down again.
So, I mean, the not full is relative. It definitely isn't full by any means,
Well, we
right?
had 3
Otherwise it
bags.
wouldn't be a lagoon anymore,
Right, we had 3 bags, we pulled out 3 bags last time,
Right.
so you said we're only.
But I can say that at the backwash effluent pipe, where it deposits into the lagoon, the sediment has accumulated to be higher than the water level right now. Like it's crowning at certain points, it's merging, it's islanding, right? So you have some area where the sediment is emerging above the water, and you have others where I'm sure there's more capacity further down. But
We need
it doesn't exactly uniformly
We need to
distribute
create
itself.
space, basically, right, rather than, I mean, it was kind of a crisis when we did it.
And we did actually discuss, maybe a month or 2 ago with the mayor about evaluating other alternatives such as providing in sludge drying beds and redirecting the backwash or putting in a press. But contrary to dealing with wastewater, where you do a controlled dewatering process from the sludge to create the cake as we send to the landfill, when you're doing a backwash of a filter, the nature of a backwash is very rapid. Because you need the force of the water to flush it out, right?
Hence the electrical spike.
Hence,
Right.
hence the electrical spike. So to have a dewatering unit that would be able to handle that flow in real time is just, it's not happening. It's not feasible, right? Not even logical. Now, your clarifier tanks in front of the plant, sedimentation tanks in front of the area that you park, where there's those 2 berms, those go down a good maybe 15 to 18 feet from the top of the concrete entrance that you see. So by the time that they leave, they only flush out by gravity. They catch a lot of sediment. If you were to put in a tank to catch the backwash as an EQ tank, to take the surge and then slowly pace it to a dewatering system, now you're building a 3rd tank at a lower invert, probably excavating a good 12 feet. You're defeating your lagoon, counteracting buoyancy, cofferdam, it's a headache. And you'll be putting in another set of pumps to go to a press that would need to be in yet another building. You're entering a project that is equal, if not larger magnitude of the one you're about to button up.
So the net of this is, as much as we hate the lagoon down there and hate the process that it puts on us, it's the only viable solution based on
Yeah.
the design of the plant.
At this stage, yes. And in fact, I'd say there are headaches associated with the lagoon. I will not deny that, but there are also a long list of plants out there that wish they had one. It is an asset.
Great, so how much of this $234,000 are you recommending we spend on this?
Honestly, I can't recommend that to boards.
How much are you what are you coming to us with?
So,
How much would we have to spend to make it, to get it down to a level that is reasonable, that,
Or
you know,
one
sort
of
of-
these bags?
One of these bags.
One of these bags.
So
We
would
think that we could
be-
afford one, maybe two of these bags with the funds that we have if I can do some negotiating on the price further, right? Because their estimate, for example, right now is based on 2 bags. That's why I said I could negotiate it further. If I say we're only gonna do one, then I should be able to lower their mob and demob costs because there's less for them to deal
Right,
with.
what is their estimate for 2 bags?
The estimate they originally gave us for the 2 bags, it comes after overhead and profit being subcontracted to the prime contractor, it would be $220,500. But I don't think that it's necessary that you go that far. It really comes down to, like you just said, you did this process 7 years ago and you're gonna do it 7 years from now.
Right.
So,
We would have an additional expense though after this, because after it dewaters itself, then we gotta haul it away.
yes.
So that's not included into this.
No, that is included in this. This
It is included?
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, okay, because that's a year
Yep.
down the road
That's 84,000 out of the 220 is
to haul
to haul it. To rip the bags, excavate it, load the dump trucks and dispose
it.
of it.
What we had before was we had an open-ended contract and we didn't have a hauling price.
Right.
We just let it dewater. So you're proposing now, keep everything contained.
Yes, so theoretically, you do have the 220,000 left over right now. And that would be for 2 full bags that he assumes $84 per cubic yard from first extraction from the lagoon to final deposit in the landfill.
But did I understand that you think it's gonna be less than that?
No, I'm saying that if you don't want to use every last penny,
Uh-huh.
right, because this really is a village financing decision, you don't have to, but to both of your points, this is something you did 7 years ago. If you're gonna have to do it again, the less you do now, it's just the more you'll have to do tomorrow, right? It's a
More
maintenance
expensive
and
it gets
continuous
for
operation.
every single-
And just so everybody knows, the other option is you can use that money to help pay back on the loan too.
Yes,
Right,
that's
so-
what I'm getting at.
You can, if we have anything left, like we did before, we started paying on the loan. And just for clarity too, EFC has approved
Principal on the loan.
this to be part of the project.
Correct,
Because we can't do that without EFC approval.
correct. They've already approved that as an eligible expense when we, I guess,
And we're so far done that there's no other contingencies that would arise.
Yeah, you're not gonna show up in
Well,
2
yeah,
weeks
like
and
with
say,
this
we are.
balance.
so from a general contractor's perspective, we should be done. The only thing I expect is we may see a few $1,000s here and there for the electrician, because they have not followed up on some of their proposals for, you recall, there were many valves added and many appurtenances added at request. And each one of those that were electric requires some wiring. We approved all the GC's proposals. I still haven't received the electrical, but they are far and few and smaller size. So if you would say you had 239,000 in the budget and you approved the 220, you still had 19 left over for any ancillary, which I think you're past that. You'll be safe. And as I said before, if we are going on a unit price, we can monitor it and put the stop wherever we want to, on whatever dollar value we want to, without committing to a lump sum.
And they would commit to that 84,000 hauling price now, even though it's a year later?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, if they sign the contract, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we had a lot,
I don't want to,
we had a hard time figuring that out last time.
Right, I mean, when gas prices are volatile, that's kind of nice.
Right.
if we make them sign now, then it's committed price, that's what I want to
Right,
make sure.
that's like.
I don't want to get a surcharge
Yeah.
a year from now.
Yeah. So what are we being asked to do right
Yeah,
now?
what's the proposal?
We're being asked if we want to use contingency money to
You don't
pay
have to
now.
prove a specific dollar value right now,
Right.
just, are you interested?
Are we interested in going out and get a committed price to remove from the lagoon 1 bag full of stuff?
One or
Right.
2?
One plus.
One
Yeah.
plus.
One plus.
Or 2.
Can you do a partial bag?
That's what he was just saying.
Theoretically, you
Yeah,
can.
theoretically, all right. Or whatever, up to a dollar limit, and get a firm committed price and get a contract in place to do this.
Or at least get quotes in place.
And what I'm understanding
So-
is there's only 2 options for this contingency money. It's this or pay the principal on the loan. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is gonna have to be done anyway.
That's, we're
This
at,
is work that will have to be done.
what he said is, there's room in the lagoon, if we could get in there with a shovel and shovel
Yeah,
it
no, no,
around.
yeah, we got that.
But we can't do that.
Right.
right? So, since we're at the head of the lagoon, we're bound,
Right.
we need to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And
Sure,
here's
yeah,
opportunity,
can you-
opportunity.
So
Makes sense.
In my opinion, this sounds like a great idea to go get some more firm numbers on.
Right.
So this is not the first number we got,
Okay.
right? It is the lower number, I don't recall right now what the exact number was of the prior, and this is the same person that did the job for you the first time.
So can you come back at our next
Accurate.
meeting with a committed price?
I'm sorry?
Can you come back at our next meeting with a committed?
Yes.
Okay,
I could, yep.
let's do that. Are you agreed? Everybody okay with
So
that?
I guess.
We're not voting on, we just
No,
get a
no, no.
price.
The only question I had was, do you have a sense for when it's worth committing to the second bag? If the second bag is gonna be half full, is it worth getting the bag? You know, do you know when the install price and the volume becomes,
That's why I said theoretically you could, but I wouldn't advise using a bag and a half, because I don't think it's worth the purchase of the second bag.
Right, so, but if it's 75% full, is it
Yeah.
worth the purchase of the
Yeah.
bag? That's what I'm asking. Is there a?
Is there a way to estimate that?
Yeah, is there a way to
Yeah,
estimate?
I don't have a calculative way to say that, but personally, if I wasn't 175, like you said, I would stick at one.
Given it just the same guy, he has a good idea of what he's getting into. I think he can give us a pretty realistic
I agree.
volume of what's there.
But I think I'm understanding your recommendation is either do one or two.
Yeah.
Don't start doing fractions of bags.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, if you're like, okay, I got 90% of the second one, and I want to, call it quits at 90%, that still feels like it's worth it.
I'd be interested in what the contractor had to say about the volume and how much he thinks we could use.
Yep,
Okay?
I will get that.
I wouldn't get it, I wouldn't hold yourself to one. Let's see what we can spend.
Well, another way to, we would have to jump a couple hoops to figure this out. I'm not sure how much it's worth it, because the contractor's only putting 5% overhead on it. He's not even doing 15 or 10, he's doing 5%. But theoretically, you could go down to about 210 and erase $10,000 by going into direct contract with that contractor, as opposed to putting them as a sub to the prime. But then the intricacy to that is,
Going through EFC.
yes.
Got it. Okay, great. I look forward to seeing your options in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Great.
But before you go, wastewater.
So for wastewater, we're still waiting on a proposal for we did a design at no additional cost for the ancillary upgrades to the EA system. The operators are hoping to see improved DO levels, because when the heat gets high and ammonia gets high, they need more oxygen, but the current air system can only provide so much. And right now it works on an air lift system, right? So the air blows into a pipe that's submerged, and because air wants to travel up and it's coming fast enough, it pulls some of the water with it, and it creates a water pump. But it's very limited in its capacity. So that is the means of reactivated, recirculated activated sludge, right? What we did is we put together a smaller shed, not even a building, with two pumps next to the sludge holding tank that would be fed by gravity, and then it will recirculate the same RAS from the center of the clarifiers up to the oxidation ditch, and you would have a new recirculation. And that frees up your blowers, which you have, to just redirect their air piping to become enhanced aeration as opposed to recirculation. So then on top of that, the operators asked about doing some valve improvements on the headworks blower system for the EQ tank. The short of it is you have some valve upgrades in the headworks, two new pumps in a shed for your return activated sludge, and piping for your existing blowers, since they would change purpose and be freed up, to become additional air added to both the oxidation ditch and the extended aeration reactor. Right, for those three things, we're hoping that it will come in within the available contingency allowance there, which is about it's $87,000. But these pumps that I'm talking about are small pumps, like they're 5,000 a piece. So I don't expect, and the village already purchased the shed, which is going on top of a concrete slab. So I think that it is mechanically limited work that should be able to be brought within the
So we're
price.
waiting for a bid price.
Yeah, we're still waiting on a
Okay.
proposal that we've been waiting on for a while, yeah.
Okay.
But those are the planned upgrades, the three. The base scope of work is complete, there are some punch list items, minor,
Great.
fixes, but
Fantastic.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
thank you.
One quick question. When the water is fully, the system is operating correctly, are we still going to be using chlorine?
Partially, yes, yes. So.
Not nearly
We
as
just
much, right?
reduced the amount of chlorine.
Yeah, regardless of your use for a primary disinfectant or not, the chlorine needs to be carried into the system as a residual by DOH regulations anyway. So you're still going to be using chlorine, but reduced significantly.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay. Martina, do you have the price on the pressure washer?
So we went out for bid for a pressure washer with a minimum bid of $1,500. We actually didn't get any, so we're actually asking if we can repost and do a minimum bid of $1,000.
I make a motion that we go out to repost for $1,000.
Until the 21st at noon.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor, say aye. How are we going to do Karen's treasury report?
So, hold on.
Oh, Karen's there.
Karen's here, I just need to turn on my volume. So she's gonna come through, if I can find my mouse. She's gonna come through my computer speakers. Say something, Karen?
Okay, can you hear me?
Or she's
Can
coming
you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
she's coming through the TV. Sure, sure, that sounds great too. Great.
Okay. All right, so the treasurer's report is for the period ending July 31st. The general fund ended the month with $152,649.28. The water fund ended the month with $123,448.75. The sewer fund ended the month with $31,772.80. We transferred $750,000 from the tax collectors to the New York class account. And I will go into the vouchers that are presented for payment. The vouchers in the general fund total $130,343.65. In the water fund, $42,098.73. In the sewer fund, $35,859.60. I think I missed a couple digits on the water treatment plant here, so I'll have to get that for you. The wastewater treatment plant, $24,059.50. Escrow, $275, and grants, $11,628.75.
I'd like a motion to approve the vouchers as submitted.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, Karen, I have a question. So there was a voucher in the wastewater folder that was for that study, which I think was for the water plant. That was the data study that we just had the presentation on.
Yeah, so Karen and I discussed this one. We did study only at water and at wastewater. And when Karen and I looked at it, Karen said, I have more money in wastewater. It's not a problem. We can charge that one. Remember, and that was for the demand metering charge, $2,000, right? And Karen suggested we push that all into the wastewater fund.
But,
And that was for last year, that's the one for last year, correct?
my only concern with that is that, these are funds, and we're responsible to manage these funds independently of each other. And so shouldn't we split that bill in half and have each fund pay for half?
That was the original, but Karen made a request to split it, to push it into wastewater.
I hear that, but I don't think we have the legal authority to do that.
Let Karen answer.
Oh.
Okay, all right, Lydia, I can pay them back and move the money and pay them back half of it.
But we can do it all out of wastewater, right? I think that's the question. She's asking a legal question.
I mean, like, I think if we we probably saved a little money by having one person do both, but if we did it in both
Location.
locations, then we need to charge each location for itself. Like, we can't have water covering wastewater, or the other way around. I know that water's really tight, and I totally get your instinct here, Karen, but I am concerned about sort of having one
Okay.
fund pay for the other, yeah.
Okay, I will separate that out when I get back, and I will, update the board as soon as I, separate that out.
Okay, great.
Thank you. And then just one other question, because that was not made out to the village, so there was sales tax on that, so that,
So Eleanor, we've removed the tax. We are not paying, we don't pay tax.
right.
So the charge is going back to the demand charge company to pay that. So we don't pay tax. That
Yeah,
was
I thought
on the
that was
bill.
removed.
It was, if you looked at the detail, taxes were removed.
Well, I signed it before they were removed. I mean, I didn't sign it, actually.
Okay, I will make that correction.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, so the capital general and the New York class
Should we-
activity and totals will be updated and distributed next week when I return. I needed to do some
Should we vote?
calculations on the
Yeah.
percentages.
Karen, wait a second. We had two motions. All in favor of,
Well, hold on, do we,
As
One
amended.
motion.
as a, yeah.
yeah, we don't have amended numbers though for water and sewer, so do we need to hold off on that?
We have to pay the vouchers, don't we?
Up to?
You can. You know what, if you want to approve to pay the vouchers, I will update those and get them to you next week, and then you can memorialize that at your second board meeting. I'll bring it to you.
The outstanding ones. Just the outstanding ones.
Did you hear that? Just the outstanding ones? Sure.
Just the
Correct.
outstanding ones. Just the
Yes,
outstanding ones.
just-
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to update any of these numbers before we approve them?
Well, can we do it contingent upon that one change being made?
Yeah, we could approve the general, and we could approve water and sewer up to 4208, whatever it is.
Yep,
Okay, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that we're approving the general vouchers as described, and then water and sewer up to those two amounts.
Second.
And the amount.
right, and I'll let you know what the difference is when I,
Thank you.
Do that, okay.
42,198 for water and 35,859 for sewer.
Wasn't sewer's gonna go, one of them's gonna go up and down.
correct.
Up to,
Well, one of them's currently low.
yes, and then we'll pay that bill next time.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Karen.
Okay, the monthly operating statement, will be provided with revenue expenditures through August 8th. I will get that up in the cloud next week, and I'll also make sure that the board members get that. Water and sewer, August, monthly bills went out at $32,946.22. Sewer at $42,511.22. Semi-annual fire line and hydrant bills went out as well. They're not 199, it's 19,357.89. Bonnetio, we are updating them on the 25-26 year-end reports. 9/1 will be the start date for the Sage software, however, there will be overlapping for a few months. I have a conference call with them on Monday to review progress and move forward. I have no budget amendments for this month.
Holy moly. Amazing.
We'll probably have a lot next month.
Thanks, Karen.
I make a motion to approve the monthly operating statements as submitted.
Second?
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and if there wasn't anything else, I looked at the agenda, if there wasn't anything else for me, I was gonna go, and I'll see you all on Monday.
Great. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank you.
San Diego.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yo.
for the cell tower?
Oh, right. So it has been my great joy and privilege to be thinking about the cell phone tower that's right here. I'm only sort of kidding. For the last like 4 years. Crown Castle currently manages that tower for us, which basically means that they maintain the tower. They take in the revenue from Verizon and AT&T, and they send us half of the revenue from Verizon and AT&T back. This contract has been in place for 25 years, and it's not great. So I would like to recommend that we do not re-up this contract. Well, it's expiring, so we, that's, but I would like to take the opportunity to sort of just, there's other cell tower management companies out there. I'm 90% sure that this is a professional services contract, so we could handle this any number of ways. We could, pull together an RFQ, which is just a request for qualifications / quotes, and sort of poll the populace. In general, when I've been talking to people who know what they're talking about with this, there's a few things. One, this tower is old, and two, Crown Castle has been keeping a great deal of our revenue, and three, they did a really terrible job of managing the Sprint T-Mobile merger, and so we lost whoever it was that we had on our tower, and instead the department store ended up with whoever we had on our tower.
Verizon.
No, it was either Sprint or T-Mobile. Ended up on their tower, which then resulted in their tower expanding and the box that surrounds it looking like crap, and we've been planning has been dealing with the cell phone company ever since, and it's been a nightmare. Long story short, I don't have a lot of faith in Crown Castle to be doing a good job on this. So with your sort of generalized approval, permission, I'd like to do something. RFQs, or we can just get some ideas from folks on how they would want to handle it. Thoughts?
I think an RFQ process sounds really like a good
Sounds
idea.
about right.
Okay, all right.
When does this expire?
March of 2027. So we have some time. But, it's good to be on top of these things. The nice thing is that we actually own the contracts with Verizon and AT&T, so we don't have to wrestle those out of Crown Castle. So. Okay, that's all I got here.
Martina, the mileage reimbursement adjustment?
Yes, so
Is this the bag of cats that I opened?
when the board approved at the organizational meeting, when the board approved the travel reimbursement rate, at the time, it was 72.5 cents, and it actually went up in July, according to the IRS, to 76 cents. When we approved it, we approved that specific amount, but now that it's been increased for the IRS, we're asking that we increase the reimbursement amount that we have for employees who have mileage reimbursement to match the IRS standard.
So our policy says, just so everybody's clear, our policy says that we will do a reimbursement mileage rate of up to the amount that the IRS has. So
Our proposed policy, but when it was adopted at the organization meeting, we specifically said 72.5 cents. So that's the,
Right, and
that's
then
the need for the correction.
right, and then the policy that we passed 2 weeks ago says
Yes, that we
Up
would not
to.
go up, we would not go
we would not
past
go
it.
over the IRS amount, right? So,
Or we can keep it the same?
or we can keep it the same.
We
can
don't
keep it
have
at
to change
We
it.
can keep it at 72.5.
Just when we do that, it can be confusing for people when they're, generally we go off of what the current rate is. So when people put in their applications, they look up what the rate is.
Generally, we go off of what's in the org chart. I know that people look up the IRS thing, but we have
When
always.
people submit these,
I
they
know.
look at the IRS rate.
Is there any reason we can't just say IRS rate?
That is what I would suggest.
Because
To
Yeah,
match
I mean,
the IRS rate.
if the gas goes up, I don't know why we should,
By state law, we have to have a rate at the org meeting. It can't just be the IRS rate, it has to be a number. So,
can we say the rate or the IRS number and then?
I mean, we can change it right now, because our
Yeah, we
current
can
policy
change
says
it.
up
I'm
to
just
the
thinking-
IRS rate, and then.
I'm just thinking the way prices have been going, we might be changing it every 2 months.
How often do they change the mileage?
January and July.
Well, generally, the IRS changes it once a year.
Yeah.
The fact
July
that they
is
did it in
rare.
July is rare,
Ah, okay.
very
So
rare.
normally-
We've never had to do this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
They did change it
Yeah.
in July of 2022, would have been the last time they did a July. So it's every now and again, but it's generally changed in January.
Okay, so we have a number in January and.
Now it's a new number.
Right, now it's a new number.
I'll make a motion to increase the number to 76 cents per mile.
Second.
Any discussion or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. You again, building, planning, and zoning fee schedules.
So we talked about the fee schedules 2 weeks ago, we posted them for comment, have we received any comment? Not that I've heard,
I had one comment asking for the previous fees, which I supplied.
but not a comment on the actual fees
Correct.
I've
themselves.
had no other comments.
Okay, great, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended fee schedules.
Second.
Are you adopting the
Discussion.
resolution? Discussion. So, I think, as you know,
The accepting resolution.
But it's not online, so.
okay, so, because I had a lot of questions about the fees when I was looking through them and kind of was trying to go into the math, in the course of trying to figure it out, as you know, I came up with a different approach, which is based on the board setting policy goals and then broad revenue ideas. I did develop an alternative resolution to move forward with that. I'm not actually going to move that forward. It does, it seems to have, I think it would complicate things at this point. And it makes it seem like a bigger shift than it really is. Actually, what I was talking about is something very small. I do hope, however, that we can revisit the conversation next year during the budget planning process, because I do think that, we seem to be estimating or guesstimating our revenue, and I think this would give us a format for being a little bit more intentional about it. So, that having been said, I do still have 3 problems with the current schedule. I don't think it would be terribly complicated. I did spend a long time talking to Ken and Ryan. I know you did as well. I heard Ken say several things that led me to believe that there are ways that he could tweak the current proposal that are fully in line with what other municipalities are doing and legal, that would, I guess, first ensure that the fees scale fairly with the size and value of projects. So I think there's room for greater proportionality. Ken mentioned several ways of approaching it that would be in line, again, with what other municipalities are doing. So the second thing is, I still think that there's a more coherent way for us to evaluate and adjust the fee structure as a whole, rather than having to evaluate hundreds of individual fees. I think there's a way of adding levels of simplicity into it, although you had a different conversation. And then third, I do think that we should look to eliminate all accessibility fees completely. So I think, the last time the fees were substantially redone, which seems like it was 2022. There seems to be a rush to do it now. My feeling from Ken, even with a more substantial change than just these 3 things, or look through than just these 3 things, he said yes, easily within 2 weeks, so that the new fee schedule could be in place by September, which is when construction projects take off again. So that's it.
I would really like to just add that looking at the schedule, my first reaction was that it doesn't really look either fair or equal. And that's because of the footage. And I looked at other municipalities in Dutchess County, and they do a lot of per square foot, which I think is definitely a better approach than what we're using now. We may end up doing a slightly different approach, but I like the square foot approach better. I was looking at some categories where the range is, the smaller you are, way more you know, you pay a much higher percent. So it might go from 50 cents per square foot to one category where the bigger you get, all of a sudden, you're not even paying a penny per square foot. And I just don't, you know, I just can't, at this point, if we're going to do something, I think we should at least tackle some of those issues and make it at least more proportional. And we can discuss later on, is that fair, or is there a better way? You know, fair and equal aren't always the same thing. I understand that. That might be another discussion, but at this point, I am not satisfied with the way they stand.
So the point of these fees is to somewhat.
We
I'm
can't
sorry,
hear you.
Right, sorry.
The point of these fees is to somewhat offset our costs. This is not to be a revenue source for the village. And I think, so that's one, it's correct? Correct, Lydia?
Yeah, so our building planning and zoning office does three things. They do building, they do planning, and they do zoning. Building fees could offset 100% of the costs of the building portion of that work. Planning fees offset some of the proportion of planning work. And I believe that, so this conversation is a dance between if someone is using that office as like a fee for service, right, versus what taxpayers are interested in making sure that this government is doing. I think taxpayers are interested in making sure that this government is enforcing our zoning code, and that making sure that buildings are being built, you know, appropriately and not to code and not going to fall down or burn up or whatever, right? So, so there's both a public interest that happens in that office as well as a private interest that happens in that office. And so I think us capturing the cost of the private part of it makes a lot of sense. But I do think that having that office, building, planning, and zoning writ large be entirely revenue neutral is actually inappropriate. Because the generalized taxpayers of this village care about the zoning code being enforced. And so having all of that cost be put onto folks who are pulling building permits out is, I believe, an inappropriate use of the building fee schedule.
Agreed.
So it's a dance, right? Especially because we have three purposes inside, you know, a handful of employees, some of whom work in that office full time, some of whom don't. And you know, and so it's a bit of a dance. This particular fee schedule, as proposed by Ryan and Ken, until Jennifer had all of her good ideas, was designed to take the policy that we had created in 2022 and just bump the fees up generally in line with inflation and what other communities are doing. So this fee schedule as presented is not a policy change. It is designed to help those who are of limited means and all the rest of it. It does not, and this is something that is missing from it, the comp plan has asked that all accessibility fees be removed. It does not do that. And I do think that there's an opportunity here to think about how to reorganize it, potentially in advance of next year's organizational meeting, you know, to do that work. But I do think that this particular fee schedule with its hundreds of line items is not a policy deviation from what we did in 2022. Instead, it's just a numbers update. And for the most part, I believe that that this is a reasonably good policy. Of course, it can always be better. And if there's an and what I also think is also interesting is this will also give us a chance to start some software updates that are required. And I think the more data that we have in the software, the more, the easier it will be to sort of reformulate the fee schedule on a larger level starting in 2027. Those are my only thoughts on this.
So nothing that I was proposing is inconsistent with what you said, because
Right.
there were no numbers attached to it, right?
Right.
So, and I think discussing what level we feel is right to be covered is the policy decision, right? Now, we're so under the number of the cost that it's really almost a moot point at this point, right? Because the numbers haven't been constructed in a way that shows this is how much revenue we expect to make, right? We haven't gone through that process. I was simply suggesting that it looks like it would be a relatively simple tweak for them to actually go through that process more fulsomely, even in this 2-week period, with some additional guidance.
I'm concerned that what starts out as a relatively easy tweak rapidly gains momentum. I started to fix a fiberglass canoe, and once I started peeling away the layers of fiberglass supported, I found out there was a lot of rot underneath there. And so my concern is, we obviously would like to do a more thorough review, and we're going to be doing that for the next budget cycle. So my feeling is we have a document that gets us up to date, and then we have a bigger open-ended window to take care of the larger policy and other goals. We're not going to change our policies with this document, but we may change our policies in the upcoming budget. I'm just very concerned that, we've kicked this around for a while. I think we should get this done in place. We know what the larger issues are. So I would like to approve this document with the idea that we will take all these things into consideration, but I don't want to keep 2 weeks turns into 2 weeks, turns into 2 weeks, and that's my problem.
My concern is that we have so many big items, big ticket items, that we're kicking this can down the road, and this is yet another can, and they're not all going to be solved at budget time. We have things like salary schedules. We have things, we have some really big items already that we have said that we are going to be addressing. So I'm just,
Also,
even a quick fix like the square foot thing or something. I mean, there are, we can look at other municipalities and just go off from what they did, with some adjustments based on, the needs of the village. That's all.
I'd just like to jump in here. I did also speak over Bill Planning and Zoning. I think this fee schedule does do a lot of things. It brings us into alignment, which is a lot of things we need to do. It brings us up to the state standards, which we need to do. It improves the information that we give to our assessors, which we need to do. Is it perfect? No fee schedule is ever perfect, but I do think that this is the right time at the right moment to take advantage of where we are, and then, as Rick said, take the time to further evaluate this for the next budget season. So I think we should move forward given where we are today.
I think it's also important to note that it is August 11th, and I started talking to the office, which is a very busy office, about having this fee schedule in place for our org meeting on April 1st. So I hear that this might just be an easy fix that will take 2 weeks. In my experience, that is not the capacity that the Building Planning and Zoning Office has. So that's also just kind of a logistical issue that I think is important to footnote.
All right, I'm going to call for a motion for a vote. All in favor of approving the building, planning, and zoning fees schedules as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So carried, 3-2. Thank you. Eleanor, you took over talking to Astor about our playground, about their playground.
Yes, and I've supplied the board with a couple of reports. One of them was that I had called up because every year I get an email from various people, including Rick, that I should be watching this video on playground safety. And I do every year. I watch that video. And so there was a contact number. So because Gary, you had said that you had talked to the insurance company, so I just contacted the company and asked them to for a checklist, just to make sure that when I go and look at that park, that I cover all the bases. And got talking to somebody there, and they put me in contact with Joanne Robertson, and she used to actually be a playground inspector, and she wanted to come look at it, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know, I can't ask you to do that. But she said, no, I'd like to come out and look at it. So she joined us for the second time. I did send out that report that she sent to us. She did that out of the goodness of her heart. I'm very appreciative. And basically, if you go into the park, you'll find, and actually she found more issues that needed to be addressed than I did. So for example, there's a swing set, and she said that the swings need to be completely replaced. I didn't know that the seats weren't good anymore, for example, but she said they had to be completely replaced. I didn't notice, but the cargo net on the main structure is rusted, and that needs to be replaced. She found a place where the main structure is actually peeling and breaking apart. What I thought was a patch in the slide turned out to actually be almost rusted away. There's a hole in the slide, and there's a rocker there that she thought was so old that we may not even be, or asked her, whoever, may not even be able to find the parts to replace it. The second meeting, I also invited the Parks Committee, and several people from the Parks Committee came. They wrote up a report, which I also shared with the board, and basically they recommended that we decline the MOU as written and do not accept the playground as is. We thank Astor for the offer and leave the door open to revisit if the MOU parameters change. So I would like to express my thanks. John McLaughlin from Astor Services was so good he was so accommodating. He stayed late so that he could accommodate our schedule. It was just, I can't express enough appreciation for his willingness to reach out and work with us. But unfortunately, the equipment is outdated. They haven't been using that since COVID, and they haven't been replacing parts, and they have not actually had it inspected. So, based on all that, I think at this point, we just should set this aside for the time being.
So outside of the equipment, given the issues, and I agree, don't have an issue with the equipment, if they were fenced off or whatever, you think there's no value in having the field or the track or the basketball court open to our community? The open structures the open systems that are there as a value add to our community?
I think at this point, the problem is the financial aspect, because whatever happens there, Astor is not committing money to upgrading.
We're not asking them, don't ask them to
But
upgrade.
then we would have to fence it off, so we would have to commit money. If you read the MOU places the onus on us, and I guess I can't blame them. I mean, they're being generous enough to offer this, so I certainly can't blame them for doing that.
There's also a discussion you can have and negotiate, right?
We can, but the question is,
Eleanor, answer my question. I'm asking about the field and the open area. Is it value add for our community members to use that open space, which doesn't require anything?
not at this point.
Okay.
I think
There's
part of the
other
issue-
issues, you have to
Yeah,
walk.
I think part of the issue too is there's this bridge that in order to get there, how we get there, signage on getting there, people are coming down that hill at 50 miles an hour, there's no crosswalk. I think in general, activating more of our green spaces in this community for the use of the public is an excellent goal. I think doing it without sort of careful consideration of how we get there, how to make sure that kids can access it safely, whether or not they have a parent with them, all of the things. I mean, my main concern, I think we could fence off the playground area, but that's just kind of a bummer. Also, it's not really gonna work because kids climb fences all the time, but my concern is mostly the bridge issue, and the kids, and the lack of sidewalks, or the lack of sidewalk on that side of the street, and then the lack of crosswalk to get there. And so, I think this sort of thing is super important, and I would hope that once the Parks Committee has stopped thinking about the Lions Mini Park, they might think about how we can activate more of our privately owned green spaces for public use. But I think trying to sort of push this one through without really kind of thinking through how the village is ultimately responsible for it liability-wise, I think is a problem.
I agree.
All right, is that a consensus of the board? All in favor of not approving the MOU? Say aye.
We don't have a motion on the table.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I thought she made a motion not to approve the
Well,
MOU.
that was,
She made a recommendation.
yeah, that was the all right, so then I would make a motion then to decline the MOU as written and not accept the playground as is.
Second?
Any other further discussion?
I think we should get underway, but
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
okay. Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Village street paving. It's that time of year. CHIPS money has been approved. We have a total balance of CHIPS money of $164,544.94. I would like to make a motion that we have paved this year, starting in September, Arnett Road, those living on Arnett, Lorraine Drive, and Oak Street, for a total cost of $162,301, with work to beginning the first week of September and directly followed by that by paving.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
You got it.
Any other discussion?
Just a question, is there any chance of getting Prospect Street on the list?
This is the total money we have, so the answer is no.
Where is Prospect Street the next one on the list?
No, well, Prospect Street is the one where we own only parcels.
Oh, that's a mess.
Just such a short span that I just thought maybe we should break down and...
There's not enough money. Rick
No,
asked.
right now, I get
Yeah.
it, but I'm just saying that we should keep that on because it really is in really, really bad shape. Maybe we should just concede the point and just do that.
Look at that for next year.
Okay, great.
They'll be happy to hear that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Eleanor, Lions Mini Park, 2 to 5-year-old playground.
Okay, so basically, last night, the Parks Committee met with we Zoomed with Studio Hip, with Elizabeth from Studio Hip, and they've come up with 3 drafts. So what happened was that the survey has been done, the surveyor came in, the survey was done, but it came in a couple days later than anticipated, and so by the time the information got to Studio Hip, they were behind for a few days, and so unfortunately it's not ready for this board meeting. So they came up with 3 really drafts. They said, kept saying, just be aware these are drafts. And so the committee looked it over and we talked it over. We had a meet with Liz and we gave her feedback, and based on that, we came up with the recommendation to actually come up with 2 designs. And the thought was that there was a simpler design, the medium one, the medium cost, and then the fancy one at the end. And the idea was that if we start with the basic design, then it could morph into, we could start out with the 2 to 5 year area as we had, always planned on starting. And then later on, we could make some changes and make it,
But at least everything would be in the spot where it's supposed to be and.
Right.
Done in an organized manner.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, and when we're meeting next Monday, hopefully by next Monday, they'll have the 2 designs done, and they'll be complete enough that I can share them with the board, and then if we choose, we can make them go public. And then we also discussed how to get this out to the public, and so we're thinking that in September, but I looked up the date, they were talking about at the picnic, but the picnic is on the 25th. So maybe we'll have to do a separate event, kind of like what they did with the TAP grant, only maybe add to it that in addition to people going around and looking at the designs and making comments and doing the sticky note and the questions, because that was good, because we got to really ask engineers, the people involved, very specific questions. and I found that was very helpful. But then maybe at the end, we should have a community meeting so that everybody can hear what everybody else said, because that was the one thing that people left there felt that, well, I wish I had known what so-and-so said, or oh, you know, we'll talk about it later, and I wish I'd known that you had suggested that. So we're looking at something like that, and possibly maybe even somehow delineating the areas in the park so that people can start by looking at where each of these areas would be and get a really physical sense of, you know, what the general outlet, you know, layout would be.
Great. Where are we with the drainage?
Eleanor took that over.
Where are we with the drainage?
With the drainage, not very far. I didn't know I was going to give a report on drainage. I've actually been.
I just thought we were gonna be doing the work this summer, and we had.
No,
No,
remember, several months ago, we moved it to the fall time because of DEC approval.
They
Oh,
had
okay.
That was already,
Okay.
That was an issue with the outflow. Remember, they had, yeah.
we needed DEC approval,
Yeah.
and we're waiting on it.
Have we gotten it yet?
I don't know, ask Eleanor.
No, not yet. And also, there was an issue with reimbursement, so we're working on the reimbursement.
Okay,
And so that's what I've just worked out, but I'm waiting for Karen to come back. But
great.
basically, just an FYI, Brandy told me that generally Time Bond does not do the reimbursements. Generally, the village is required to.
Yeah, we put out the money and then we get reimbursed for it.
Correct,
Yeah.
but there was a question of whether Time Bond would do that actual reimbursement or not. And
Oh,
so,
the actual
yes.
paperwork?
Yes, and Brandy said no, so just so people who are new on the board and doing
Yeah.
projects
Yeah.
understand the process a little bit better, because that took me about a week to
Yeah.
sort of.
In the past, we've handled these things.
Yeah, no, I know,
Yeah,
I'm in
so
charge of the zoning
This is
code
not,
grant.
this is not new, this is not new.
That's what we do.
This is what we do.
No, I got it.
All right,
Okay,
Eleanor, let's move on to Tree of Heaven.
cool. Thank you, Eleanor.
Okay, Tree of Heaven, I got several quotes, so I got, well, four quotes, but Trilliumism, first of all, they only treat the trees, they don't cut them down and remove them, so I didn't even get a quote from them. And then Dave's Tree Service cuts down the trees, but he does not believe in painting or in, painting the stumps or anything. And so from all the literature I've read and from the comments that I've read from a group that talks about invasive species, you really have to treat after you cut down, you've got to treat the stump or the stub of the tree. So that brings it down to two quotes, and one of them is from Save a Tree, and that's for $2,311, and the other one is from Hillside. And the problem is that I'm going to do something, if I can find, oh, here's the numbers. Hillkeepers, Inc., theirs is only $1,200. I'm going to actually recommend, but this is for the board to discuss and think about, I'm going to recommend going with Save a Tree, even though it is the higher bid.
Eleanor.
I know. Okay.
We're shocked.
I know.
Color us.
All right, Hill Tree Keepers sprays the trees. And they will come back and remove them. And this is for everybody to not just me, for me to decide. I'm just thinking that if the public sees a bunch of trees that have been killed by spraying right near the Landsman Kill, I think the public might not be very happy. The other thing I liked about Andrew Miller from Save a Tree is that he actually told me that one tree, it's not a big one, but he said he can cut it down, but he can't treat it because it's too close to the water. And just that detail and the fact that he does not take out his phone app to identify trees just really impressed me.
Nice to know that arborists are arborists, right? Yeah.
So I make the recommendation that we hire Save a Tree for $2,311.
Versus 1,400.
No, it's versus $1,200.24.
So it's like $1,000.
Second.
discussion.
So I think our responsibility is always to choose what we consider to be the lowest qualified responsible bidder. And having done your homework there, it sounds like you have a definitive argument that Save a Tree is the more responsible, better qualified bidder. Is that your recommendation?
Where's the money coming from?
So we have, we put, all right, I didn't talk to Karen about that. I didn't know she would be at the meeting, but I did talk to Karen, but she said she didn't have the access to the operating budget, so we talked about the fact that $1,600 were put into the budget, and I think it was put into a tree line. I don't know if you remember, Rick. And that was for.
There was a
that
lot of
was
conversation
only-
about that.
Yeah, that was for
Yeah.
only the mini park. Okay, that was not, we said we were not going to do anything in Crystal Lake. in the
Right.
Legion Park. Okay, so that's $1,600. Then I suggest we take $500 from the budget for pruning in the doughboy, because we have had 2 volunteers who have stepped up and they are doing that, so that puts us at $2,100. And I would suggest that the other $200 comes from the fees, non-employees.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm
Makes
not
sense.
sure. I don't think.
I'm confused about the first line item.
Yeah, I don't think,
1,500.
yeah, I think we gotta look at the Providence at 1,600. I don't think that's in the tree commission budget.
Well,
We
it
have-
might have been in, it may have been in, like, does highway have a pruning, or?
I remember we had a whole conversation.
Yeah.
about
Yeah, I
something in
gotta
Is
try to look it up
there-
there.
is there any problem waiting 2 weeks till we get clarification on where the money is?
I hesitate, I mean, I guess we could, and that's because they've actually changed the timeline, whereas last year they were recommending September, October, now they're recommending to do this in August, so,
Okay, I got it.
so I guess we can,
Playgrounds.
whatever the board decides, I mean,
There's 1,500 in the playgrounds recreation.
And it's literally remove tree of heaven.
Yeah.
okay, so that's
There's
15.
15.
So there's a 1,500 right
All right,
there.
so it's in your budget, Eleanor. It's your budget.
Yeah.
So we got 1,500, we got the 500, so that brings us up to 2,000, so.
And the fees not employed, there's quite a bit here, so
There should
I
be.
don't know what's been used out of there yet, but I would
Well,
imagine there's something.
she's got the $2,000. And the bid price is $2,000, right?
Well, 2,300.
Oh, no, it's 2,300.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need $300. I think we can
Comes
find,
out of fees not
we can
employed.
find $300.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
All right, so
Great.
I'd like to amend the motion that the money come out of the parks line item for removing tree of heaven, and $500 out to the doughboy, and the other 300 will take out of fees, the other 300 will take out of fees, non-fees employee or whatever.
Yeah, in the playgrounds section.
Have a
Second.
second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your work on that, Eleanor, my goodness.
Rick?
Yes. Okay. So, I think I sent you guys out a memo. New York State has opened a grant portal for a new tree survey and tree management plan. We last did this 6 years ago. And generally the state wants to see it see them refreshed at about a 5 to 10 year rate. There's a new method which is now used for the surveying. Basically, the company sends around, the analogy is like a Google Maps type car, and they actually use laser radar to look at the trees, measure the trees, see which parts of the trees are healthy, look at the canopy, and actually build a virtual tree that you can spin around and look at the dead limbs and find out all its coverage. So this is a 100% reimbursable grant from the state of New York. I'm going to project that it's going to come in. There's some contingencies around $80,000 tops. I mean, it looks like about 60 and change now, but I think I'd like to add some additional training to it. So I'd like the board's authorization to go out and pursue this grant. The timeline would be, it would be awarded in October. The DV Tree Service, who does this, would not be going out until spring of 2027. And so this bill would either fall in, or not the bill, but the cost would be associated either in the late part of our 26 27 budget or early 27, 28, we would have to carry the expense, but it is a 100% reimbursable grant. So I'd like to make a motion that I have permission to pursue this grant.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, just, I missed that, so what is the amount of the rate?
Well, there's a couple of contingencies that I want to work through, so I'm gonna put it at no more, not to exceed $85,000, and I'll get the round, because there's some per tree numbers, yada, yada. But
So Rick, my only question is, you're recommending that we set aside that money.
if that's the way you want to do it.
Where are we gonna how are we gonna set aside $85,000?
Well, the way we've done this in the past is that we've usually allocated this from fund balance with the idea that it would be returned to fund balance upon reimbursement.
So general fund balance.
Correct.
All right, I wanna be clear on that.
Yeah.
That we're gonna reserve 85,000 or whatever the grant award is in fund balance until we get reimbursed.
Right, so we'd have to carry that until New York State reimburses us.
And what's the timeline for reimbursement, do you know? Is it
I
30 days?
I don't
In
know.
my experience with the zoning code grant, it's been anywhere from like 30 to 60.
Yeah,
This isn't a zoning code grant.
right.
No,
I mean,
it's money, no.
I did not look
I
at,
would assume, I agree, but I don't.
I did not look at it. I mean, I have to say, I don't have that
Because you
off the top
said
of my
maybe
head.
it's next year.
Well, it depends when we get the bill. In other words, Davey, we may not get a bill until, late June, in which case it's 27, 28.
Correct.
So, that's why I said it could hit to this budget or partially to this budget and partially to the next.
So when is this grant, would you have to submit?
Tomorrow.
The only,
We thought it said August 22nd, turns out it said August 12th.
So, I've got,
the only reason I'm asking is because that's a big chunk of money we really can't spend it. I mean, once we commit that, I don't know what's in the general fund balance. The
Our general fund
unallocated-
balance tends to fluctuate. I mean, at the moment, it's huge.
The
because-
unallocated, yeah.
Yeah, at the moment, it's huge because we just took in all of our tax revenue.
Yeah, well,
I
it's
know,
like
but-
$1 million right now.
Right.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
I just mean like at the end of last year, what was our unallocated?
We haven't gotten that analysis yet, but it usually fluctuates anywhere between 800,000 and $1 million.
I get that, I'm just saying we haven't gotten it.
and what I would say about that is that a while ago, we passed a policy that we were trying to have the fund balance be between 15 and 25% of the, and I believe that we were above that.
Yeah,
We're above
We
that.
are above, given our New York class investment account.
Even under class, we're above that. So I think this is, there are hundreds of
My
thousands
only
of
point
dollars.
is to make sure that it's clear, it's coming out, we're gonna reserve it as a fund
Fund
balance,
balance.
that's all.
Mhm.
We really can do this.
Right.
There's a mechanism to make this work, so I just wanna make it obvious that you amend the motion that
Okay.
reserve the money in fund balance.
Yes, as amended.
Second. How does this work with our existing software?
It actually slots right back into it.
Oh, great, okay.
And the other nice thing about this grant is that it includes, the state allowed us to put in our annual software costs into the grant, which they didn't used to do before.
Oh, lovely.
How
When will we
lovely.
get notified of award?
October.
October.
Yeah.
All right. So it's plenty of time still to get the contractor to do the work. or whatever.
No, the contractor is very clear. They have to do it during the growing season. And the timing, yeah, it's in the spring. And the grant cycle accommodates that,
Right.
that doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, and the answer is just a little bit more Lydia on that. It uses the old software. I was gonna include some training because the software is updated, which I wanted to get for tree folks. And I wanted to drag some people from VP&Z over so that they can start to use this software. It's actually pretty sophisticated. We use it for our tracking, but there's deeper stuff we can be doing with it, but it would probably have to be done on the VP&Z side. So I'd like to get those guys in, and again, we can put that cost into the grant.
Cool.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, special request, fair parking request. We have a request with the Dutchess County Fair coming up, to again, through Hill, family to approve their Dutchess County Fair parking for 2026, August 25th to the 30th. This has been reviewed by police and zoning and everyone. I make a motion to approve the fair parking contract for the Dutchess County Fair.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on. Next one is on the schedule is close Village Hall. Martina.
Every year during Fair Week, we like to close down for inventory and records management. So I'm asking that the board close down this year from Wednesday, August 26th through Friday, August 28th.
Second?
Any discussion?
So moved.
And seconded.
I can't second my own motion.
All right, seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Water operator training. We have a request from Matt Green to attend water operator training in Kingston for a total cost of $60. No cars required. This is a licensing requirement for his training. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
I will say it's on a day that he's not regularly scheduled to work.
Oh, we hadn't figured out how to solve that problem.
Okay, I think it's okay.
We pay him.
Training is important.
Yeah,
We pay him.
but do we pay him overtime or do we pay him regular?
We can adjust his day. We can work with Matt. I can work with Brian and we'll look at this.
Yeah, have Kyle work with Brian to figure that out.
Let's see if we can,
You say that.
I'd like to amend the motion that Kyle work with the employee in order to have this be part of his regular week and not be overtime.
if not possible.
If possible,
If possible.
if possible.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hold on, pause.
Halloween parade. Jeez, coming up quick.
No.
Declined. Not until September. They're not allowed to ask until September.
We do want them 60 days in advance. The American Legion Auxiliary and the Village of Rhinebeck co-sponsor the Children's Halloween Parade. This happens to be the 40th annual Children's Halloween Parade. Step off at Village Hall and end at the American Legion. Date is October 25th. I'd like to make a motion to approve the annual Halloween Parade on October 25th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fall foliage. This again is a traditional fall foliage race that's run between the village and the town.
This year,
Was
it
this
looks like
on?
it's 100% in the village.
Is it? I have.
It is a different route. It has been vetted by Officer Dunn.
So it's 100% in the village now?
Looks like it.
Mainly.
I mean, maybe a tiny bit up Knollwood. It used to go down Montgomery.
Here's the 5K. I have the 5K course, but not the other course.
Oh,
The 5K course has always been in the village.
okay.
It's the half marathon that's not.
Oh, okay.
All right? So, again, they cover all of our expense. It's never an issue. We bill them directly and they pay us immediately. I'd like to make a motion to approve the fall foliage 5K and half marathon.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, is this the one that we had, 400, okay. I think we had discussion in the past about the number, but
Limited it to 800 people, which I
it
think.
says 400 estimated, so that's well
For
within.
each of the two events, so
Right,
it'd be
it's
800
800
total.
total.
That worked last year. So.
Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we got a last minute request to reschedule I just closed my screen, sorry. Hang on. I'll get back to it. A request came in today, right, to open an hour earlier, is that it?
They were originally supposed to have the sidewalk sale this weekend. They are now asking that it's the 21st through the 23rd.
Oh, so it's a different day.
For weather reasons? Just
They didn't
because?
say.
They didn't say? We approved it for this weekend?
We approved it for this weekend. And
So
also,
now they're moving it, so it's not an hour change, it's a date change.
it's a date change.
Is there anything conflicting?
Not that I can see from my calendar.
Okay.
It's before the fair starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So moved.
Sorry?
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I need to abstain from the minutes approval, not being here, so can somebody else make a motion for the minutes?
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, I should actually amend as amended.
amended.
Yeah, as amended.
Yes, second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
I abstain.
Okay, committee reports.
That was a sparsely attended meeting.
Tree Commission.
Okay, I have one request from the board. There are no tree permits that are currently under review. However, it is time to renew our subscription to Tree Keeper, which is the software that we use to track and manage our trees. We're a little bit late this year because they sent the emails to our old ny.gov address. They were good enough to honor, because we've been a longtime customer, they're honoring the old price of $2,500, which we have in a budget line for. The price, depending on how we negotiate, may be going up to $3,600 a year. That's because the state's paying for it now, or at least for a few years they're paying for it. So basically, I'd like to make a motion that we renew our subscription for the Tree Keeper software for $2,500 with the Davy Tree Service, whatever Davy, and it comes from a budgeted line for that purpose.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Okay. Few quick updates from the Climate Smart Task Force composting. The village will be hosting a tour of the Ellerslie compost site on September 12th as part of the Hudson Valley Climate Solutions Week. Also, I thought this was fantastic and a real testament to Vanessa. Hyde Park's Climate Smart Task Force also recently visited the site and is looking at ways to replicate the program or potentially bring food scraps to Ellerslie.
That's cool.
I also had a chance to visit the site. Eleanor came as well, and we had a great conversation with Michael DeCola. There is significant capacity to compost more food waste, so we talked about collection and different ways we might increase participation. I'll be discussing some of those ideas further with Vanessa and the compost working group. Plastics and refrigerants. The task force is hoping to have a couple of members take the Beyond Plastics course this fall. Thank you all for supporting that and reminding me how important our volunteers are. They are also talking with neighboring municipalities about holding a refrigerant recycling event, hopefully with support from Dutchess County. EV charging. The village has received ZEV grant funding to help install additional level 3 fast charging stations in the municipal lot. Pollinators and biodiversity. Task force volunteers were at the farmers market on August 8th promoting native plantings for pollinators. We're also looking for a new volunteer to take over this village's spring amphibian migration program. So all you turtle and frog people out there, give a call. And the Village Hall Energy Project, we're still waiting to hear about the V-Fire grant. We were supposed to hear in August. It looks like that's going to be in September, so that throws a little bit into the mix. In the meantime, we're completing the paperwork for the SAM grant funding that we've already received. I'll be talking with Train on Thursday about some potential next steps and phasing and reconnecting with the engineering firm that conducted the Village Hall energy audit so we can start putting together a clearer path forward for the building. But for the most part, we're gonna, we kind of have to see what's going on with the V-Fire grant. That's it.
Can I just add something? If anybody has the opportunity to go on that compost tour,
Yeah.
definitely take it because it was really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really being treated like a science, and, you know, you're standing there listening to somebody discuss whether, you know, because hemp is better bedding than straw, but hemp draws more water, and then he pulls out some hemp and he squeezes it and shows it, and, you know, and then what they do to try to now lower the water content, so it's really quite an operation, actually.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
It's a wonderful tour, I've seen it too. We did get a memo from Vanessa about people kind of wish cycling some stuff. And the idea is that there are containers, plastics, buckets that are labeled biodegradable, but they are not acceptable within our compost system.
Yeah.
So
Or the green bags.
the green bags, there's some buckets have come through. So it's really food scraps, brown paper bags only. And if you wish cycle this stuff, it means that a volunteer actually has to go when the dumpster is dumped and pick through the garbage to pull out the items that are not recyclable. So even though people do this with the best of intentions, oh, it's probably recyclable, there's actually a downstream impact, very negative impact, that somebody actually has to stand there in all those food scraps and fish out your non-recyclable piece of plastic. So please don't do it.
Eleanor, anything more on the parks?
Not really much, except that I've already talked enough, but I actually saw the first blossoms in the pollinator garden, so that was kind of exciting. Unfortunately, all the rains washed off the little tag they put there, so I don't know I can't tell you what it is, but it's a very bright blue flower, and it was really satisfying to see it there. And then I don't remember if I totally explained that the survey's been pretty well done in the mini park, but it hasn't been staked yet, so that's why the bill hasn't come through. And as soon as we get the map straightened out and make sure that he's supplied the map as promised, then that's going to be done. So that's done. But that did not prevent Studio Hip from using the data, because they had enough data to do the design so they could move forward. And that's, I think,
Great.
pretty much what I have.
Comprehensive plan.
They did not meet in July, so I will have a better report next month.
All right, at this time, it's a tremendous opportunity to thank our employees, and who have anniversaries. I'd like to extend a huge thank to Matt Green, at our water plant for 4 years, and Police Officer Dan Killian, who's been on the force for 10 years. Thank you all, thank you both. I'm looking forward to your continued work with the village. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 8:30.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.